Okay, welcome, ladies and gents. Today we're going to be talking about this crazy madness that's coming out from BBC, CNN about the whole Syria situation. If you're wondering why I'm streaming early, there probably won't be that many people on this stream live, but I'm going to be streaming a lot earlier now because the reason I haven't posted since Saturday, or actually Friday, which was the Paris video, which you got to read the comments on that, quite funny, is because I've now traveled halfway across the world. So I'm in Bangkok now, which explains why I'm absolutely jet lagged to the max, but I had to do a stream so you all know, yes, I'm okay, I'm alive. So let's talk about the whole Syria situation first of all then, and break it down. Firstly, what you're being told in the mainstream media is never quite the truth, as always. And even if I tried to explain the whole situation to you from start to finish, it's extremely complicated. What you need to know, the basics, if you want to know what the 13 years this has been going on, or even longer, really. But you had Syria under Assad, you had the support, mainly air support by Russia as an ally. You also had, gosh, so you've had, hold on one second, let me just load this up. So yeah, it was Russia really doing the air support. Iran was mainly doing the ground support, and then Hezbollah out of Lebanon as well, supporting them. You can see, like I said, I'm jet lagged today, so my brain isn't going to work as well. So who did you have on the other side then, like supporting the rebels? Well, you had um, the US mainly offering air support, right? You had Turkey, which really helped to topple what has been these 3 days, which, if you believe that after 13 years of being dug in, the Syrian army were toppled in 3 days, then yeah, I've got a bridge to sell you in New York. So what really happened then? Well, let me just back up a second. So you had the US doing the air support, you had Turkey doing ground support, then there was a lot of support. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UK was involved, France, Israel, which you'll see why Israel was involved now, and also the Netherlands. So there's a lot of groups involved in this. Why? Well, if you look at the natural resources of Syria, what is it? It's oil and natural gas. So there's an absolute fortune to be made in Syria, which is one of the reasons that there were a lot of groups involved, but not all the reasons. Now, I want to take you to the shared screen a second and just show you something that I was somewhat amazed by, and that was that I don't know if you remember well, you probably won't remember. You're talking 6-7 years ago now. You had these sort of you had this deck of people that the US was after. So here was one. You might recognize him, as the BBC talks about his rebrand at the moment. So this is one chap here. BBC, from Syrian jihadist leader to rebel politician, how he has reinvented himself. So I was somewhat surprised at this article, and I couldn't quite understand why they were talking about him in such a positive way when he was one of the most wanted, according to all the intel, one of the most wanted terrorists, they called him, in the world. And now the BBC, you've got CNN, you've got all sorts doing this very positive spin about him and the group. So they're even saying that the Syrian rebels, so that the actual group that's now in power, may be removed from the UK terrorist list. And you're there scratching your head saying, hold on, wait, what's going on here? Pat McFadden says prescribed status and his group, once aligned with Al Qaeda, are to be reviewed. So he oversees the cabinet office. He said the government is going to review this now. They're going to review HTS and see if they're still going to label them a terrorist group. Asked how long it would take to make a decision, he said, "Well, it won't take long. We'll do it very, very quickly." How exactly? So you gotta start asking these questions. What is actually going on? Priti Patel, the shadow foreign secretary, called for a cross-government review of the security and defense implications and the terrorism risk to the UK of the fall of the Assad regime in Syria. So there's actually pros and cons of the regime falling, as there is with any regime. But I think one of the biggest risks now is, especially with the prison, and again, in prison you have people who are guilty, you have people that are innocent, right? It's always the same. People get wrongfully convicted all the time of things, but some of these prisons that were there that have been, emptied now, some of these people were some serious players, and you read some of the stuff that says they want to come across to Europe, they're going to come across to the UK and all this other stuff. Yeah, not too worrying, I guess. The UK, I mean, he's in charge of the cabinet office. He doesn't seem to be very concerned by any of this. But the BBC, they really just they wrote this. How can we even put this? They wrote some very positive things about him. They first started talking about the negative stuff. After the 2003 US-led invasion, he joined other foreign fighters in Iraq, and in 2005 was imprisoned at Camp Bucca, where he enhanced his jihadist affiliations, and later on was introduced to Abu Bakr. So the quiet scholar who would later go on to lead IS, okay. In 2011, Baghdadi sent Jalani to Syria with funding to establish this front, okay. I have to be careful what words I say and don't say. This was a covert faction tied to ISI. By 2012, he'd become a prominent Syrian fighting force, hiding its IS and Al-Qaeda ties. From the start, he prioritized winning Syrian support, distancing himself from IS brutality, and emphasized a more pragmatic approach to jihad. This is the BBC, by the way. The Al-Qaeda affiliation ultimately did little to benefit this effort. In 2016, he severed ties with them, rebranded his group as HTS. This is 2017. So they've said that he's basically, turned his life around. A lot of the group, they've turned their life around, and they're calling it now moderate, the moderate jihad that they're calling this. And that they're promising safety to neighbors and powers like Russia. They pledged peaceful relations. They've even assured Russia its Syrian bases would remain unharmed if the attacks cease. So obviously it was the Russian jets that were bombing the rebels. But at the same time, the US jets were bombing the Syrian positions. So this is all the things that have been going on here. It's pretty wild the way this has been going. But I wanted to give a little bit more context here. So you think for 13 years then, the Syrian army were fighting, and the rebels were backed by some serious players here. Like you had Israel, you had Turkey, the Americans, mainly in air defense here. And then within 3 days, the rebels just completely overtook them. I don't buy it. I actually think what happened was the Syrian army stood down. And you can read a lot of the reports on this. That looks as though what actually took place. It didn't help that Russia actually pulled back a lot of its forces as the rebel forces were getting backed up here. So this is what they said then. They claimed the victory is a result of hard-fought battles and military prowess. It's just not possible. Any of you that have served in the military will know you can't take an entire country in 3 days. The positions would have been so well dug in, even if you did bomb them really badly. So what I actually think happened, and I think there was a deal done. That's what I think happened. There was some sort of deal, and it was between Russia, Syria, Iran, Hezbollah, Turkey, US, and Israel, because all this happened at a very quick space of time. And then what have you seen taking place right away? So what's happened is Netanyahu claimed credit for the process that caused the fall of the Assad regime. And what then happened right away? Israel moved in quite quickly into into that region, into the buffer zone, and they've taken control of the buffer zone, and they've been hitting the positions very hard. Now, just to give context to this, the reason Israel's doing this, they're bombing inside Syria. I think what they're most likely trying to do is take out all the weapons caches. They're taking out any heavy equipment that could be used against them. That is what I think they're doing in Syria here. But they are only 16 miles from Damascus now. So it's a kind of weird one, because Israel's denying that they are there, but then there's videos of the tanks there. So it's a bizarre one that I'm still keeping an eye on to see what happens. But as always, you can always rely on Lindsey Graham out of the US to make a statement saying that we actually need to put US troops there. Yes, we need US troops. Every post he puts out is about US troops on the ground. It's funny, if you remember 8 years ago, you had the militias who were actually fighting each other. One was backed by the Pentagon, one was backed by the CIA. It's a rather bizarre one. But of course, the Syrians in London and all the major capitals are celebrating the fall of the regime now. And I wonder if they will return home. That will be very interesting to see. Or will they stay in Europe where most are? But we know Assad has gone to Russia. He's got asylum there. Now, there was another story that I wanted to touch upon just briefly here. So, remember we talked about this last week. Well, he's been picked up now. He's been charged. As I was going through all the articles, I kept seeing this painful back injury. It appears 2 or 3 times in every single article. One article had it 5 times. Was it this one? No, this one had it twice. So what I thought was really bizarre about that, I think we're going to see something coming out about this back injury, because why is everyone talking about the back injury? Why is everyone they interview talking about this back injury and that he suffered this back injury? It's all really bizarre. And, it just goes to show these things can take anyone by surprise as well. Because when I saw that footage, thought to myself, this guy looks like a professional in a lot of ways. The way he cleared his weapon and the jam and all this, it was just and the way he got his escape plan, and he'd scouted the guy out. It was really bizarre. But then he'd showed his face in a Starbucks. It's like, well, is he a professional? Why would a professional show their face like that? It was a really bizarre one, and we're still not getting quite to the point yet of what the whole situation is. But it's obviously very divided on social media, which I was very, very surprised by. But you notice this was one of the biggest manhunts in modern history. Why? Very simply, if the average person gets gunned down, it's, the police, yeah, they might find the person, they might never find them. But because this guy was a high profile person, CEO of the 4th largest company in the US, what happened? Every last resource was sent after him. So let's see. I'm going to be watching that case very closely to see to see. I think we've got his motives already, but I'm sure there's something going to come out about this back injury. It's everywhere. Why is every media outlet focusing on a back injury, interviewing people from all different places, and they keep talking about this back injury? It's weird. It's just weird. You know me, I spot these patterns. So let's see. I think you're going to find something to do with the back injury, and it's going to be linked to this. But again, why is it that all the witnesses, all the family members are always in shock? Do you notice that? They never say, oh yeah, I could have told you about that. I saw that one coming. They always say, I'm in shock. I'd have never thought it. He was a nice guy. I can't believe it. It's weird. It's weird. All right. All right. Good. Well, thanks for being online. I wasn't going to stream. I am so jet lagged. It's ridiculous. That was a 12-hour straight flight getting in. I'm shattered. But yeah, I'll stream as often as I can out here, whilst obviously making new courses and things like that. Let me know if there's any particular interest or course that you are interested in. I've had a lot of feedback already. People saying they wanted, because I don't do, I'm not running the coaching groups anymore. So people have said, can I have a coaching course so they can continue on with things? Other people have said they wanted a debt course, how to get out of debt and save and invest. Other people said they wanted me to create a sort of blueprint based on the last cash flow course, how to create all these digital products. So those are three things that I've got on the list that I'm going to be definitely working on the third one there. But if there's anything you want me to work on, please drop it in the comments. I will read the comments, and I'd be very interested to know if there's anything in particular you'd want. All right. Thanks for being online. Take care. God bless. See you later.